My son said the document was just a formality. No money, no risk. We need it tonight, he said. I read every page, signed nothing. And by morning, they realized the entire deal had been waiting on me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It started around 9:30 on a Tuesday. I was in the kitchen making coffee when Kevin walked in through the back door like he still lived here. He didn't knock, hadn't knocked in years. Just walked in with that easy confidence he'd always had, the kind that made people think he knew what he was doing, even when he didn't. "Dad," he said, "got a minute?" I looked at him over the rim of my mug. He was wearing a suit, not the cheap kind he used to wear to job interviews. This was tailored, expensive, the kind of suit you wear when you want people to take you seriously. "Sure," I said. He set a manila envelope on the kitchen table. It made a soft thud against the wood. The envelope was thick, maybe 30 or 40 pages inside. "What's this?" "Just paperwork," Kevin said. He pulled out a chair and sat down without being invited. "For the business transition. Everyone's signing off tonight. We just need your signature on a few pages." "What business transition?" He waved his hand like I was being difficult. "The restructuring I told you about last month. Remember, we're consolidating the partnerships, cleaning up the ownership structure, standard stuff." I didn't remember him telling me anything last month. I would have remembered. "Why do you need my signature?" "Because you're still listed as a contingent guarantor on the original formation documents," he said. "It's just a formality. You're not assuming any liability or anything. We just need you to acknowledge the transition." I opened the envelope and pulled out the stack of papers. They were printed on heavy stock, the kind lawyers use, professional, official-looking. The top page had a title in bold, Amendment to Articles of Organization and Succession Continuity Authorization. "Succession continuity," I said. "Yeah, it just means if something happens to one of the partners, the business keeps running smoothly, no disruption." I started reading. Kevin checked his phone. "We're on a tight deadline here, Dad. The notary's coming at 10. If we don't file this tonight, we lose the window." "What window?" "The merger window. The buyers won't wait past midnight. It's all time sensitive." I kept reading. The language was dense. Lots of heretofore and pursuant to and notwithstanding. But I've read enough contracts in my life to know when someone's burying the important parts in the middle. I found it on page 7. A clause about final authorization contingent upon consent of designated continuity officer. I flipped to the signature page. There was a line for my name, right below it, in smaller print. "By signing below, the undersigned acknowledges and accepts designation as primary continuity officer with final binding authority over all succession and transfer actions." I looked up at Kevin. "This makes me the final decision maker," I said. What? No, it's just a formality." "It says, final binding authority." He leaned forward. "Dad, nobody's going to exercise that clause. It's just there for legal compliance. The lawyers insisted on it. You know how lawyers are? If nobody's going to exercise it, why is it there?" "I just told you. Legal compliance." I set the papers down and picked up my coffee. It had gone lukewarm. The back door opened again. Kevin's wife walked in. Melissa. She was carrying a leather bag and wearing heels that clicked against the tile floor. She looked at the papers on the table, then at Kevin. "Is he signing?" she asked. Not hello, not how are you. Just, is he signing? "We're talking about it," Kevin said. Melissa set her bag on the counter. "We don't have time to talk about it. The notary's going to be here in 20 minutes. "I'm reading it," I said. She turned to look at me. Her expression was polite, but her eyes weren't. Kevin explained everything. "This is standard corporate restructuring. We've been planning this for 6 months. Everyone else has already signed. We just need your signature so we can move forward." "Who's everyone else?" "The partners, the investors, your daughter." I looked at Kevin. "Rebecca signed this?" "Yesterday," he said. She understood what it was. That was interesting. Rebecca was a lawyer, corporate law specifically. If she'd signed this, she knew exactly what it meant, which meant either she thought it was harmless or she thought I'd sign without reading it. "I need more time," I said. Melissa's smile tightened. "We don't have more time. The filing deadline is tonight." "Then you should have brought this to me earlier." "We tried," Kevin said. "Addo, you didn't answer your phone." I had answered my phone. He'd called yesterday afternoon and asked if I wanted to grab lunch sometime. No mention of documents or deadlines or notaries. "You didn't mention any of this on the phone," I said. "I didn't want to bother you with the details. I figured I'd just bring it by and walk you through it in person." Walk me through it. That's what you say when you want someone to sign without thinking. I looked at the papers again, flipped through them, found another clause on page 12 about irrevocable transfer contingent upon continuity approval. What are you transferring? I asked. Partnership shares, Kevin said. It's part of the merger. We're transferring our shares to the acquiring company. And this transfer is contingent on my approval. Technically, yes. But like I said, it's just a formality. Melissa checked her watch. 15 minutes. I kept reading. The more I read, the clearer it became. This wasn't a formality. This was a control mechanism. Whoever signed as primary continuity officer had veto power over the entire transaction. Nothing could move forward without their explicit written consent, which meant they'd structured the whole deal around my cooperation, and they'd waited until the last minute to tell me. I wondered how much money was involved. Had to be significant if they were this nervous. How much are you selling for? I asked. Kevin and Melissa exchanged a look. That's confidential, Melissa said. I'm the primary continuity officer. Doesn't that mean I should know? You're not the primary continuity officer until you sign, she said. Then I guess I don't need to know. Kevin stood up. Dad, please, this is important. This deal changes everything for us, for the whole family. Then you should have told me about it earlier. I'm telling you now. No, I said. You're pressuring me now. There's a difference. Melissa picked up her bag. We'll call the notary and reschedule. We can push the deadline back a few hours. That'll give you time to read everything. How much time? Until midnight, Kevin said. That's the absolute latest we can file. I looked at the papers again, at the signature line, at the clause that gave me final authority. Something felt wrong about this. Not illegal, not fraudulent, just wrong, like they were trying to make me responsible for something without telling me what it was. I'll think about it, I said. Kevin's jaw tightened. Dad. I said I'll think about it. Melissa touched Kevin's arm. Let's go. We'll come back later. They left through the back door, didn't say goodbye, just walked out. I heard their car start in the driveway, heard them pull away. Then I noticed something. The manila envelope was still on the table. They'd left the documents behind. Either they forgot to take them, or they assumed I'd sign eventually and didn't want to carry them back and forth. I picked up the papers and read them again. Slowly this time, every word, every clause, every footnote. By the time I finished, it was almost midnight, and I understood exactly what they were trying to do. As the story unfolds, hit the hype button, like, subscribe, and write in the comments. Would you forgive them or walk away? I didn't sleep that night. Around 3 a.m, I made more coffee and went through the documents again. This time I took notes, drew diagrams, traced the flow of authority through the corporate structure. It was elegant, in a ruthless kind of way. The business Kevin had built, or claimed to have built, was structured as a limited liability company, multiple partners, multiple ownership tiers. But buried in the original formation documents, there was a provision requiring a designated continuity officer to approve any major transfer or succession event. When they'd first set it up, that officer had been Kevin's business partner, a guy named Tom something. I'd met him once at a barbecue. Nice enough. Talked too much about golf. But Tom was gone now. Bought out 6 months ago, according to a footnote on page 19, and when Tom left, the designation transferred to me. Not because they wanted it to, because the original documents required it. The continuity officer had to be someone outside the active partnership, someone with no financial stake in the daily operations, someone like a retired father who'd co-signed the initial formation documents back when Kevin was just starting out. I'd forgotten about that. Signed some papers 8 years ago because Kevin needed a guarantor and I wanted to support him. Never thought about it again. But the lawyers hadn't forgotten, and now Kevin needed me to sign off on this transfer or the whole deal collapsed. The question was, what deal? The documents didn't say. They referenced the merger and the acquisition, but never named the acquiring company. Never stated the purchase price. Never explained what Kevin was actually selling. Just said he was transferring his partnership shares and needed my approval to do it, which meant I was the gate, the checkpoint, the last barrier between Kevin and whatever he'd promised to deliver, and he'd tried to sneak it past me with a smile and a tight deadline. That's what bothered me most. Not the legal complexity, not the late-night pressure, the dishonesty. If he'd called me 2 weeks ago and explained everything honestly, I probably would have signed. Would have asked a few questions, maybe had a lawyer look it over, but ultimately I would have trusted him. Instead, he'd shown up at 9:30 at night with his wife and a notary and tried to rush me through it, like I was stupid, like I wouldn't read it. My phone buzzed. A text from Kevin. Did you finish reading? We can come by in the morning. I didn't answer. Another text. The deadline got pushed to noon. We have time. Just need your signature. I turned off my phone. At 7 in the morning, I drove to a coffee shop across town, sat in a corner booth with my back to the wall, and called my daughter. Rebecca answered on the third ring. Dad? What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I need to ask you about something. Okay. Did you sign a succession continuity authorization for Kevin's business? Silence. Rebecca? Who told you about that? Kevin. He brought me the documents last night. Said you'd already signed. I did, she said. Last week. It's just a formality. Standard corporate restructuring. Oh, why didn't you tell me about it? Because it's Kevin's business. I didn't think it was my place. I stirred my coffee. But you read it. Of course I read it. Then you know what it does. Another pause. Dad, where are you going with this? I'm trying to understand why my son waited until the last minute to tell me I'm the final decision maker on his entire business transition. Because he probably didn't think you'd care about the technical details. You've never been interested in the business side of things. That stung a little, mostly because it was true. Did he tell you how much money is involved? I asked. No. Did you ask? It's not my business. You're a corporate lawyer, Rebecca. You know this stuff matters. She sighed. Look, Dad, Kevin's been working on this deal for over a year. It's a big opportunity. He's finally getting somewhere. Don't mess it up for him just because he didn't explain it perfectly. I'm not trying to mess anything up. I'm trying to understand what I'm signing. You're signing a consent form. That's all. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't put you at risk. It just lets Kevin move forward. And if I don't sign, then the deal falls apart and Kevin loses everything he's worked for. Everything? Dad, please, just sign the papers. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. She hung up. I sat there for a while, watching the morning commuters line up for their coffee. Everyone moving fast. Everyone in a hurry. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Kevin. Can we meet at 10? I'll buy breakfast. Then another text. From Melissa. We really need this today, please. Then another. From Rebecca. I love you, Dad. Please don't overthink this. I turned off my phone again. At 9:30, I drove to a storage unit I'd been renting for the past 5 years. I hadn't been there in months, maybe longer. It was full of old files and boxes from when I used to run a small consulting business. Nothing glamorous, just contracts and client records and tax documents. I found what I was looking for in a box labeled 2016-2017, the original formation documents for Kevin's LLC. I'd kept a copy because the lawyer who drew them up had advised me to, said I should always keep copies of anything I co-signed. I spread the papers on the floor of the storage unit and compared them to the documents Kevin had brought last night. That's when I saw it. The continuity officer designation wasn't accidental, it was intentional. Back in 2017, Kevin's business partner, Tom, had insisted on it. Wanted someone outside the partnership to have final say on any major decisions, a neutral third party, someone who couldn't be pressured by investors or lenders. Tom thought it was protection. Kevin must have forgotten about it, or thought it didn't matter, or assumed I'd never actually read the documents. But here's what Kevin didn't know. The designation wasn't just about approval, it was about control. According to the original formation documents, the continuity officer had the authority to approve or deny any transfer. And if the transfer was denied, the shares reverted to a holding status, frozen, untradeable. Which meant I didn't just have veto power, I had the power to lock everything in place. I sat there on the concrete floor of the storage unit, surrounded by old paperwork, and started laughing. Not because it was funny, because it was perfect. They'd built a trap for themselves and never even realized it. At 10:15, I drove back home. My phone was still off. I didn't turn it on. When I pulled into my driveway, Kevin's car was already there. He was sitting on the front porch with Melissa. They both stood up when they saw me. Dad, Kevin said, we've been calling. I know. Why didn't you answer? I was busy. Melissa stepped forward. Did you read everything? Are you ready to sign? I unlocked the front door and walked inside. They followed me. Dad, seriously. We're running out of time. I set my keys on the counter. Tell me about the deal. I told you, it's a merger. With who? A private equity firm. Which one? That's confidential. How much are they paying? Dad. How much, Kevin? He looked at Melissa. She shook her head slightly. We can't disclose that, Kevin said. Why not? Because of the NDA. What NDA? The non-disclosure agreement we signed with the buyers. We're not allowed to discuss the terms with anyone outside the transaction. I leaned against the counter. But I'm inside the transaction. I'm the continuity officer. You're not officially the continuity officer until you sign. Then I guess I'm not signing. Melissa's face went pale. What? I'm not signing. Kevin took a step toward me. Dad, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You want me to approve a transfer without telling me what I'm approving, you want me to hand over control without knowing what's being controlled, and you want me to do it on your timeline, not mine. It's not like that. Then what's it like? It's business, Melissa said. It's just business. You're taking this personally. You're damn right I'm taking it personally. You came into my house last night and tried to pressure me into signing something I didn't understand. You brought a notary. You set a deadline. You made it sound like I was the problem. You are the problem, Melissa said. Kevin grabbed her arm. Melissa, she pulled away. No, he needs to hear this. We've been working on this deal for 18 months. 18 months of negotiations and due diligence and legal reviews. Power trip? Yes, you're enjoying this. Making us beg, making us sweat. You've never been involved in the business before, but now suddenly you care about every little detail. I looked at Kevin. Is that what you think? He didn't answer. Kevin, is that what you think? I think you're overthinking this, he said quietly. I think you're scared of something that isn't there. What am I scared of? I don't know. Responsibility? Change? Letting go. I picked up the manila envelope from where I'd left it on the kitchen table, pulled out the documents, found the clause on page 7. This clause, I said. The one about final binding authority. What happens if I exercise it? You won't exercise it. But what if I do? Kevin ran his hand through his hair. Then the transfer gets delayed pending your approval. What if I don't approve? Then the deal dies. And what happens to you? He didn't answer. Kevin, what happens to you if the deal dies? Melissa answered for him. We lose everything. Everything? We took out a bridge loan to cover the transition costs. If the deal doesn't close, we can't repay it. How much? $2 million. I stared at her. You borrowed $2 million? We had to, Kevin said. The buyers wanted us to restructure before the acquisition. Clean up the books, pay off some old debts. We didn't have the cash, so we took out a loan against the expected purchase price. And if the purchase doesn't happen, we default. On $2 million. Yes, I set the papers down. And you didn't think I should know about this before I signed? We were going to tell you after, Melissa said. After I'd already committed. After it didn't matter anymore. I looked at Kevin. Really looked at him. At the expensive suit. The confident posture. The desperation in his eyes. Who else knows about the loan? I asked. Just us, he said. And Rebecca. Rebecca knows? She helped us structure it. Your sister, the lawyer, helped you borrow $2 million against a deal that required my approval, and nobody thought to mention this to me? Kevin looked at the floor. We thought you'd sign. Why? Because you're my father. That's not a reason. That's an obligation. What's the difference? I picked up the documents again, held them up. The difference is that a reason requires honesty. An obligation just requires pressure. I walked to the fireplace. There was no fire burning, but the symbolism was clear enough. Don't, Melissa said. I looked at her. Don't what? Don't destroy those. They're the only copies. I thought everything was digital these days. The final signature pages have to be original. The notarization requires physical documents. I held the papers over the empty fireplace. So if I burn these, the deal dies. Dad, Kevin said, please. I lowered the papers. I'm not going to burn them. Melissa exhaled. But I'm not going to sign them either. What are you going to do? Kevin asked. I looked at him, at my son, at the man I'd raised and supported and trusted. I'm going to think about it, I said. And when I'm ready, I'll let you know. We don't have time. You should have thought about that before you lied to me. I walked to the front door and opened it. You need to leave. They didn't move. Kevin, Melissa, leave. Melissa grabbed the manila envelope off the table. Kevin started to follow her, then stopped. Dad, he said. I'm sorry. I should have been honest with you. Yes, I said. You should have. But I need this. I need you to sign. I know. Will you? I didn't answer. He walked out. I closed the door behind them, and then I stood there in my empty house, holding all the power, feeling like I'd just lost something I couldn't name. My phone buzzed. I'd turned it back on without thinking. A voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. I played it. Mr. Brennan, this is Leslie from First National. I'm calling about the bridge loan for KMB Ventures. We've been trying to reach your son, but he's not responding. The next payment is due Friday, and we haven't received confirmation of the closing date. Please call me back at your earliest convenience. I saved the message. Then I called my old lawyer. His name was Howard. We'd worked together back when I was still running my consulting business. He was semi-retired now, only took on a few clients, but he answered on the second ring. Ben Brennan, he said. Haven't heard from you in 3 years? 4, I said. I need advice. What kind? The kind where I'm not sure if I'm being paranoid or smart. Those are my favorite kind. Come by the office. Howard's office was in an old building downtown, the kind with marble floors and brass fixtures and elevator operators who'd been there since the 70s. His suite was on the 9th floor, overlooking the river. He was waiting for me when I arrived. Still wore bow ties, still had that same half smile like he knew something you didn't. We sat in his conference room. I spread out the documents. Talk, he said. I told him everything. Kevin's late-night visit, the tight deadline, the $2 million bridge loan, Rebecca's involvement, Melissa's admission. Howard read through the papers while I talked. Didn't interrupt, just nodded occasionally and made notes on a legal pad. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. You know what this is? He said. A trap. No, a trap implies intent. This is a mistake. What kind of mistake? The kind where smart people get ahead of themselves and forget about the fundamentals. He tapped the documents. Your son's business partner, this Tom person, he understood something important. He understood that money makes people stupid, so he built in a safety mechanism. Someone outside the chaos who could pump the brakes if things got crazy. And Kevin forgot about it, or thought it didn't matter, or assumed you'd be too flattered to ask questions. Howard flipped to page 7. But this clause right here, this is ironclad. You have absolute discretion. You can approve, deny, or condition your approval on anything you want. Anything? Anything that's not illegal or contrary to public policy. I thought about that. What if I wanted to condition my approval on full disclosure of the purchase terms? You could do that. What if I wanted to review the buyer's financial statements? You could do that too. What if I wanted to delay my decision until I was satisfied with the risk profile? Howard smiled. Now you're thinking like a continuity officer. How long could I delay? The documents don't specify a time limit, which means you could delay indefinitely. Even past the closing deadline? Especially past the closing deadline. The deadline is Kevin's problem, not yours. I looked out the window at the river. A barge was moving upstream, slow and steady. Here's what I don't understand, I said. If I have this much power, why didn't they just cut me out? Restructure the company to remove the continuity officer requirement. Because they can't, Howard said. Look at page 23. I found the page, read the clause. Any amendment to the continuity officer designation requires unanimous consent of all equity holders and written approval of the continuity officer himself. Howard leaned forward. They built a lock, and you're the key. The only way to remove you is if you agree to remove yourself. So I'm stuck in this. No, they're stuck with you. I sat with that for a minute. What would you do? I asked. Howard took off his reading glasses. You want my professional opinion or my personal opinion? Both. Professionally, I'd advise you to exercise your authority carefully. Review everything, ask questions, demand answers. Don't sign anything until you're satisfied. And personally? He looked at me for a long moment. Personally, he said, I'd be asking myself why my own son thought he could lie to me. I left Howard's office around 2 in the afternoon. Drove home the long way, through neighborhoods I used to know when the kids were young. Kevin's elementary school was still there. So was the park where Rebecca learned to ride a bike. Everything looked smaller than I remembered. My phone rang. Rebecca, I answered. Dad, what are you doing? Driving. Kevin said you refused to sign. I didn't refuse. I said I needed time to think. You don't have time. The deadline is tomorrow at noon. I'm aware. Then why are you stalling? I pulled over to the side of the road, put the car in park. Rebecca, did you know about the bridge loan? Silence. Did you? Yes, she said quietly. And you didn't think I should know? It wasn't my place to tell you. You're a lawyer. You helped them structure it. How is that not your place? I was representing Kevin, not you. I'm your father, and Kevin's my brother. What was I supposed to do? Tell the truth. She laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You want to talk about truth? Fine. Here's the truth. Kevin's been struggling for years. This business was supposed to change everything, but it's been bleeding money since day one. He and Melissa have been juggling credit cards and loans and investors, just trying to keep the lights on. This acquisition is their way out, their only way out. Then he should have told me that. Would you have helped? Of course. Without judging him? Without making him feel like a failure? I didn't answer. That's what I thought, Rebecca said. Look, Dad, I know you're hurt. I know Kevin should have been honest with you. But this isn't about honesty anymore. This is about survival. If you don't sign those papers, Kevin loses everything. The business, the house, maybe even his marriage. He should have thought about that before he borrowed $2 million. He did think about it. That's why he's asking for your help. By lying to me. By protecting his pride. There's a difference. I watched the traffic go by. You really believe that? I believe Kevin's desperate, and desperate people make bad choices. So I should just sign? Yes, even though I don't know who the buyers are or what they're paying or what they plan to do with Kevin's company after they own it. Yes. Why? Because he's your son. I closed my eyes. That's not a good enough reason, Rebecca. Then what is? How about because it's the right thing to do? How about because the deal is fair and transparent and benefits everyone involved? How about because Kevin asked me honestly instead of trying to manipulate me? He tried to protect you from the details. I don't need protection. I need respect. She was quiet for a long time. Are you going to sign? She finally asked. I don't know yet. Kevin thinks you're punishing him. Maybe I am. For what? For assuming I'm stupid. I hung up. At home, I made a sandwich I didn't eat and tried to watch television. Nothing held my attention. I kept thinking about what Rebecca had said. Kevin's been struggling for years. Why didn't I know that? Why hadn't he told me? Because he didn't want you to know, a voice in my head said. Because he wanted you to think he was successful. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Mr. Brennan, this is Tom Fletcher. I used to be Kevin's business partner. Can we talk? I stared at the message. Tom Fletcher, the guy who'd insisted on the continuity officer clause back in 2017. I called the number. Tom? Mr. Brennan, thanks for calling back. How did you get my number? From the original formation documents. You were listed as an emergency contact. What do you want? I heard Kevin's trying to close a deal. I wanted to make sure you understood what you're signing. I understand perfectly. Do you? Because when I set up that continuity officer designation, I did it to protect the company from exactly this kind of situation. What situation? A rushed sale to a buyer who doesn't care about the business, only the assets. I sat down. Who's the buyer? I don't know their name, but I know their type. Private equity vultures. They'll buy Kevin's company, strip out everything valuable, and leave him holding the debt. How do you know? Because that's what they do. I've seen it happen a dozen times. They come in with big promises and clean financing, but the fine print is brutal. Earnouts that never pay, non-compete clauses that last forever, clawback provisions that trigger at the slightest excuse. Kevin must know this. Kevin's desperate. He needs the money too badly to ask the right questions. And you think I should stop him? Tom paused. I think you should make sure he knows what he's getting into. That's why I built in the continuity officer requirement, so someone with a clear head could review these things. Why are you telling me this? You haven't been with the company for 6 months? Because I still care about Kevin, and because I know what it's like to make a deal you regret. Is that what happened to you? Let's just say I'm glad I got out when I did. He hung up. I sat there holding my phone, feeling the weight of it all. $2 million in debt. A mystery buyer, a desperate son, a daughter who thought I was being unreasonable, and a continuity officer clause that gave me the power to stop everything. At 6 o'clock, someone knocked on my front door. I looked through the peephole. It wasn't Kevin or Melissa. It was a man I didn't recognize. Tall, maybe 60, wearing an expensive overcoat. I opened the door halfway. Can I help you? Mr. Brennan, my name is Richard Castellan. I represent the acquiring company in your son's transaction. May I come in? I didn't move. How did you know where I live? Kevin provided your contact information. Kevin doesn't have the authority to do that. Perhaps not, but he did it anyway. Castellan smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. I understand you have concerns about the transaction. I'd like to address them. I haven't expressed any concerns. Your refusal to sign is concern enough. I studied him. You came all the way here because I haven't signed a document yet? The closing is tomorrow. Your signature is required. I thought a personal conversation might be helpful. Why didn't Kevin come? Because I asked him not to. Sometimes these things are better handled without family emotions getting in the way. I didn't like that. Didn't like his tone, or his smile, or the fact that he was standing on my porch uninvited. I'm not interested, I said. In what? In whatever you're selling. I'm not selling anything. I'm buying. Kevin's company, specifically. Then talk to Kevin. I can't close without your approval. Then I guess you have a problem. His smile faded. Mr. Brennan, I don't think you understand the situation. Kevin has made commitments, financial commitments. If this deal doesn't close, those commitments become liabilities. I'm aware. Then you understand that your refusal to sign will cause your son significant harm. My refusal to be rushed will cause my son to wait. There's a difference. Castellan took a step closer. How much? Excuse me? How much do you want? To sign. Name your price. I stared at him. You think I'm holding out for money? Everyone's holding out for something. Get off my property. Mr. Brennan. I said get off my property. He held up his hands. I apologize if I offended you. That wasn't my intention. What was your intention? To close a business transaction. By bribing the continuity officer? By compensating you for your time and cooperation. Same thing. He pulled a business card from his pocket and set it on the porch railing. If you change your mind, call me. We can structure your approval however you like. Consulting fee, advisory payment, whatever makes you comfortable. I'm comfortable saying no. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he turned and walked to a black sedan parked at the curb. I watched him drive away. Then I picked up his business card. Richard Castellan, Managing Partner, Castellan Equity Partners. I went inside and Googled the name. Castellan Equity Partners was a private equity firm based in New York. Their website showed a portfolio of acquisitions, mostly small manufacturing companies and service businesses. The language was vague but aggressive. Value maximization. Operational efficiency. Strategic restructuring. I clicked through to their news page. The most recent press release was from 3 months ago. Something about acquiring a logistics company in Ohio. I searched for the logistics company's name separately, found a local news article from 2 months ago. The company had laid off 60% of its workforce after the acquisition. I searched for other companies in Castellan's portfolio, found the same pattern: acquisition, restructuring, layoffs. Tom had been right. These people didn't care about Kevin's business. They cared about his assets. And Kevin was so desperate for cash that he'd walk right into it. My phone rang. Kevin, I answered. Dad, what did you say to Castellan? I told him to leave. Why? Because he tried to bribe me. He was trying to help. He was trying to buy my approval. What's the difference? Kevin, do you know anything about this company? Of course. They're a reputable private equity firm. Have you looked at their track record? Their financials are solid. That's not what I asked. Have you looked at what happens to the companies they acquire? Silence. Kevin? They restructure. That's what PE firms do. They gut them. They buy companies, strip out the valuable parts, and dump the rest. That's not going to happen to us. How do you know? Because Castellan promised. Castellan promised what? To keep you on? To maintain the workforce? To honor the original vision? He promised to grow the business. Did you get that in writing? Kevin didn't answer. Did you, Kevin? The purchase agreement protects us. Have you read it? Rebecca reviewed it. Did Rebecca tell you about the earn-out provisions? The clawback clauses? The non-compete restrictions? Those are standard. Standard for who? For you or for Castellan? Dad, you're not a lawyer. You don't understand how these deals work. Then explain it to me. Explain how selling your company to a firm that destroys companies is a good idea. They're paying us enough to cover the bridge loan and walk away clean. And then what? Then I start over. With what? You'll be non-competed out of your own industry. You'll have no business, no reputation, no leverage. I'll have money. For how long? A year? 2 years? What happens when it runs out and you can't work in your own field? His voice rose. What do you want me to do, Dad? Default on the loan? Lose the house? Go bankrupt? I want you to slow down. Find a better buyer. Negotiate better terms. There is no better buyer. This is the only offer we have. Then maybe you're selling the wrong thing. What does that mean? It means maybe the problem isn't finding a buyer. Maybe the problem is that you built something that isn't worth buying. I heard him inhale sharply. I'm sorry, I said. That came out wrong. No, you meant it. Kevin. I've spent 8 years building this company. 8 years of 18-hour days and maxed out credit cards and missing my kids' birthdays. And now, when I finally have a chance to make it pay off, you're telling me it's worthless. That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said. I tried to call him back. He didn't answer. I texted him. No response. I sat there in the dark, wondering when I'd become the villain in my own son's story. The answer came at midnight, a text from Melissa. You just destroyed our family. I hope you're proud. I didn't sleep again. Around 4 a.m, I gave up trying and went for a walk. The streets were empty. Just me and the streetlights and the occasional car passing through. I walked for 2 hours, tried to sort through everything in my head. The facts were simple. Kevin needed my signature to close his deal. The deal was with a company that would likely destroy his business. If the deal didn't close, Kevin would default on a $2 million loan. If he defaulted, he'd lose everything. But if he closed, he'd lose everything slower. Either way, I was the bad guy, for signing or for refusing to sign. The sun came up while I was walking past the old high school. I stood there looking at the football field where Kevin used to play. Wide receiver, fast, but not fast enough for college. He'd been devastated when the scholarship offers never came. I wondered if that was when it started. The need to prove himself. The need to be successful at any cost. Or maybe it started earlier. Maybe it started with me. My phone rang. Howard. You're up early, I said. I couldn't sleep. Been thinking about your situation. And? I did some digging on Castellan Equity Partners. They're worse than I thought. How bad? They have 17 acquisitions in the last 5 years. 14 of those companies no longer exist. The other 3 are shells, stripped down to nothing. How is that legal? It's not illegal. They buy the assets, liquidate what's valuable, and walk away from the liabilities. The original owners get paid, but everyone else gets screwed, including employees, especially employees. I thought about Kevin's company. He had maybe 20 people working for him, people with families, mortgages, lives that depended on steady paychecks. What happens to them after Castellan takes over? I asked. Best case, they get laid off with severance. Worst case, they get fired for cause to avoid paying severance. And Kevin? Kevin gets his payout, signs his non-compete, and walks away. He won't be able to help them even if he wants to. I watched the sun come up over the football field. So, if I sign, Kevin gets paid but destroys his employees. If I don't sign, Kevin goes bankrupt but the employees keep their jobs. For a while, Howard said, until the company collapses on its own. So everyone loses. Not everyone. Castellan wins, they always win. I started walking again. There has to be another option. There isn't, not with the timeline you have. The closing is in 8 hours. What if I delayed it? On what grounds? Continuity review. I could say I need more time to evaluate the long-term impact on stakeholders. You could try, but Kevin would fight it. He'd probably sue you for tortious interference. Can he do that? He can try. Whether he'd win is another question, but the lawsuit alone would delay everything for months, maybe years. And in the meantime? In the meantime, the bridge loan comes due. Kevin defaults. Everything collapses anyway. I stopped walking. So no matter what I do, Kevin loses. Yes. Then why does he want me to sign so badly? Howard was quiet for a moment. Because losing slowly feels better than losing fast. I hung up and headed home. At 7:30, Rebecca called. Dad, we need to talk. I'm done talking. Everything stopped. What? He took a bottle of sleeping pills. Melissa found him in time. He's at Mercy General. I was already moving toward my car. Is he okay? Physically, yes. Mentally, I don't know. I'm on my way. Dad, wait. I'm coming. The doctors won't let you see him. Why not? Because he told them he doesn't want to see you. I stopped at my car door. What? He said you were the reason he did it. I felt something break inside my chest. Rebecca, I know it's not your fault, but that's what he told them. I need to see him. You can't. Not yet. Maybe in a few days. A few days? They're putting him on a psychiatric hold. 72 hours minimum. I leaned against my car. The sun was bright. Too bright. Is Melissa with him? I asked. Yes. And you? I'm at the hospital now. Tell him I'm sorry. Dad, tell him I'm sorry and I love him. She didn't say anything. Rebecca? He knows. She hung up. I drove to the hospital anyway, sat in the parking lot for an hour, didn't go inside, just sat there. At 9 o'clock, my phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Brennan? Who is this? Leslie from First National. We spoke yesterday about the bridge loan. This isn't a good time. I understand, but I need to inform you that the loan payment is now officially overdue. We've been unable to reach Kevin, and the closing that was supposed to happen today has been postponed. I know. Do you know when the closing might be rescheduled? No. Because if we don't receive payment by Friday, we'll have to initiate default proceedings. Do what you have to do. Mr. Brennan, you're listed as a co-guarantor on this loan. Everything went cold. What? You co-signed the bridge loan last year. If Kevin defaults, you're personally liable for the balance. I didn't co-sign anything. According to our records, you signed a guarantor agreement on March 15th of last year. That's impossible. Would you like me to send you a copy? Yes. I gave her my email address. Hung up, sat there trying to remember March of last year. Kevin had asked me to sign something, said it was for a business credit line. Standard stuff, just a formality. I'd signed it. Without reading it, without asking questions, because he was my son and I trusted him. My phone buzzed. Email from Leslie. Subject line, guarantor agreement, KMB Ventures bridge loan. I opened the attachment. There it was, my signature, right at the bottom. I read the document, every word. It was clear, unambiguous. If Kevin defaulted, I was responsible for the full amount, $2 million. I called Howard. I'm a co-guarantor on the bridge loan. What? I signed a guarantor agreement last year. I didn't know what it was. Jesus, Ben. What do I do? You have two options. Pay the loan or file bankruptcy. I don't have $2 million. Then you file bankruptcy. What about my house? It's an asset. They'll take it. I looked at my house, the house where I'd raised my kids, where my wife had died, where I'd lived for 30 years. There has to be another way, I said. There isn't. I'm sorry. I sat in the hospital parking lot for another hour. Then I called Castellan. He answered on the first ring. Mr. Brennan, I was hoping you'd call. I'll sign, I said. Excellent. I'll have the documents couriered to your house within the hour. On one condition. Which is? I want to review the complete purchase agreement. Every page, every clause. I want to know exactly what Kevin's signing. That's confidential? Then the deal's off. Castellan was quiet for a moment. If I show you the agreement, will you sign the continuity authorization? If the agreement is fair. Fair to whom? To Kevin. Mr. Brennan, with all due respect, your son is desperate. He'll sign anything at this point. Whether it's fair or not is irrelevant. Then make it fair. I'm not in the business of charity, and I'm not in the business of signing documents that screw over my family. Even though your refusal to sign will bankrupt your son and cost you your house? How did you know about... I know everything, Mr. Brennan. That's my job. I closed my eyes. What do you want from me? Your signature, that's all. Sign the continuity authorization and walk away. Let Kevin deal with the consequences of his own decisions. And if I don't, then we all lose. Me, you, Kevin, everyone. You'll survive. So will you. The question is whether Kevin will. I thought about my son in a hospital bed, about the pills he'd taken, about the desperation that would drive someone to that point. I'll sign, I said. When? After I see the purchase agreement. I told you. Then find a way, because that's the only way this happens. Castellan hung up. 10 minutes later, he called back. Noon, he said. My attorney's office downtown. Bring a lawyer if you want, but this is your only chance to review the documents. I'll be there. I called Howard. Told him what was happening. Don't do this, he said. I have to. Ben, listen to me. This is a bad idea. Castellan's trying to corner you. He knows you're desperate. He's going to show you just enough to make you think you're making an informed decision, but it'll be theater. The real poison will be buried too deep for you to find in one meeting. I don't have a choice. You always have a choice. Not when my son's in a hospital bed because of me. That's not because of you. That's because of Kevin's choices. I'm done arguing about this. Are you coming with me or not? Howard sighed. I'll meet you there. At 11:30, I drove downtown. Howard was waiting in the lobby of Castellan's attorney's office. 47th floor, corner suite, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. You ready for this? Howard asked. No. Good. That means you're thinking clearly. We took the elevator up. A receptionist led us to a conference room. Castellan was already there, along with 2 other men in suits. One was introduced as his attorney. The other wasn't introduced at all. "Mr. Brennan," Castellan said. "Thank you for coming." I didn't shake his hand, just sat down. "Where's the agreement?" I asked. Castellan's attorney pushed a binder across the table. It was thick, maybe 200 pages. "You have 1 hour," Castellan said. Howard opened the binder and started reading. I did the same. The hospital smelled like disinfectant and fear. I found Rebecca in the waiting room outside the psychiatric unit. She looked exhausted. "How is he?" I asked. "Stable. The doctor said the pills didn't do any permanent damage." "Can I see him?" "He's with Melissa right now. She said she'd come get you when they're ready." I sat down next to her. The chairs were hard plastic, uncomfortable by design. "Rebecca, I'm sorry." "For what?" "For putting you in the middle of this." She shook her head. "You didn't put me anywhere. I chose to help Kevin. That's on me." "Did you know about the guarantor agreement?" She looked at the floor. "Yes." "And you didn't tell me?" "Kevin asked me not to." "Why?" "Because he knew you'd never sign if you understood the full picture." I leaned back in the chair. So the whole thing was designed to trap me. It wasn't designed to trap you. It was designed to get the deal done. The guarantor agreement was supposed to be a formality. Nobody thought Kevin would actually default. Except he is defaulting, and now I'm liable for $2 million. Rebecca didn't say anything. "Did you know the purchase agreement was that bad?" I asked. "I knew it wasn't great." "Not great?" "Rebecca, they structured it so Kevin only gets 30% guaranteed, and even that has a clawback provision. He could end up with nothing. Or he could end up with $600,000 and a fresh start. After 5 years of not being able to work in his own industry. He can work in a different industry." "Doing what?" "Kevin spent his entire adult life building this one skill set. You want him to start over as a barista?" "I want him to survive. That's all. Just survive." Her voice cracked on the last word. I looked at her, really looked at her. She had dark circles under her eyes. Her hands were shaking. "When's the last time you slept?" I asked. "I don't know. Tuesday, maybe." "That was 4 days ago." "I'm fine." "Rebecca." I said I'm fine. She wasn't fine. None of us were fine. A nurse appeared in the doorway. "Miss Brennan, your brother is ready to see your father now." Rebecca stood up. "Are you sure you want to do this?" "I have to. He might say things. Hurtful things. The doctor said the medication can make him emotional." "I can handle it." She didn't look convinced. I followed the nurse through 2 sets of locked doors into the psychiatric wing. The walls were painted a soothing beige. The lights were soft. Everything designed to feel calm and safe. Kevin's room was at the end of the hall. Melissa was sitting in a chair next to his bed. She stood up when she saw me. 5 minutes, she said. "Melissa." 5 minutes, then you leave." She walked past me without making eye contact. Kevin was lying in the bed, propped up on pillows. He had an IV in his arm, heart monitor beeping softly. He looked pale, smaller than I remembered. "Hey," I said. "Hey." I pulled up the chair Melissa had vacated, sat down. "How are you feeling?" "Stupid." "You're not stupid." "That's pretty stupid." I didn't know what to say to that. Kevin stared at the ceiling. "Melissa told me you went to see Castellan." "Yeah." "Did you sign?" "Not yet." "Are you going to?" "I don't know." He turned his head to look at me. "Why not?" "Because the deal's terrible. You'd be better off walking away." "And going bankrupt?" "Maybe." "And you're okay with that? With me losing everything?" "I'm okay with you being alive." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's the problem, Dad. I don't want to just be alive. I want to be successful. I want to matter." "You do matter." "Not like this. Not as a failure." "You're not a failure." Yes, I am. I built a company that's worthless. I borrowed money I can't repay. I dragged my family into my mess, and now my own father won't help me get out of it. I'm trying to help you. It's too late for that." I looked at the IV in his arm, at the monitor tracking his heartbeat, at the locked door that was supposed to keep him safe from himself. "Kevin, I went through the purchase agreement today, line by line. You know what I found?" "What?" "Castellan structured it so you get almost nothing, 30% upfront, with a clawback if you don't hit impossible performance targets, 70% earnout that'll never pay, 5-year non-compete that'll keep you from working anywhere useful." "So?" So you're selling your entire future for $600,000 that you might not even keep? $600,000 pays off the bridge loan. Barely. And then what? You can't work. You can't compete. You can't rebuild. I'll figure something out. With what? You'll be broke and unemployable. He closed his eyes. At least I won't be in debt. Yes, you will, because I'm the guarantor on that loan. If you default, I default. We're tied together whether you like it or not. Then sign the authorization and let me close the deal. It's the only way we both survive. I renegotiated the terms. His eyes opened. What? I told Castellan I'd only approve the transfer if he revised the agreement. 70% upfront, 30% earnout, 2-year non-compete, limited clawback. You did what? I made it better. You had no right. I had every right. I'm the continuity officer. That's my job. I'm trying to save you from a bad deal. There is no good deal, Dad. Don't you get it? I'm desperate. Castellan knows I'm desperate. He's offering me whatever he thinks I'll accept, and I'll accept anything because I have no other choice. There's always another choice. Like what? Bankruptcy? Losing the house? Destroying my credit for the next decade? Like walking away from Castellan and finding a real buyer, someone who actually values what you've built. I don't have time to find another buyer. The bridge loan payment is due Friday. I'll cover the payment. Kevin stared at me. With what money? I'll figure something out. You don't have $2 million. I have equity in my house. You're going to mortgage your house to save my business? If that's what it takes. He shook his head. No, absolutely not. It's my decision. Dad, I won't let you do that. You don't have a choice. I'm the guarantor. If you default, they come after me anyway. At least this way, we buy time to find a better solution. There is no better solution. Then we make one. Kevin leaned back against the pillows. You really think you can fix this? I can try. Why? Because you're my son. That's not a good enough reason. It's the only reason I need. He was quiet for a long time. Castellan's not going to accept your renegotiation, he finally said. He already did. What? He agreed to 70% upfront, 30% earnout, 2-year non-compete, and limited clawback. He's drafting a revised agreement now. Kevin stared at me. How did you get him to agree to that? I told him it was the only way I'd sign. And he believed you? He didn't have a choice. Kevin laughed. Actually laughed. It was a broken sound, but it was real. You called his bluff, he said. I guess I did. I didn't think you had it in you. Neither did I. He looked at me with something that might have been respect, or maybe just surprise. So what happens now? He asked. Now we wait for Castellan to deliver the revised agreement. If it matches what he promised, I'll sign the continuity authorization. You'll close the deal, you'll pay off the bridge loan, and then you'll take whatever money you have left and figure out what comes next. And if Castellan doesn't deliver, then we find another way. Like what? I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out. Kevin closed his eyes again. I'm tired, Dad. I know. I mean really tired. Tired of fighting, tired of pretending everything's okay when it's not, tired of being scared all the time. Then stop fighting. Let me help you. I don't know how to do that. You already did. You asked for help. That's the hard part. He didn't say anything. I stood up. Get some rest. I'll handle Castellan. Dad? Yeah? I'm sorry. For lying to you. For dragging you into this. For everything. I know. Do you forgive me? I looked at my son. At this man I'd raised. This person I'd loved longer than I'd loved anyone except his mother. There's nothing to forgive, I said. That wasn't entirely true, but it was true enough for now. I left the room. Melissa was waiting in the hallway. Did he seem okay? She asked. As okay as he can be? Did he tell you it was my idea? The bridge loan? I looked at her. No? Well, it was. I pushed Kevin to take it. I thought the deal with Castellan was solid. I thought we'd close in a month and pay everything back with room to spare. What changed? The due diligence took longer than expected. Castellan kept finding reasons to delay. By the time we realized he was stringing us along, we'd already spent most of the loan on restructuring costs. Why didn't you back out? Because we couldn't. We'd already committed to the buyers. Already signed letters of intent. If we backed out, we'd be in breach. Of what? Everything. The loan agreement, the purchase agreement, the vendor contracts we'd signed in anticipation of the sale. So you're saying Kevin had no choice? I'm saying we were trapped. By our own decisions, yes. but trapped nonetheless. I thought about that, about how desperation compounds, how one bad decision leads to another until you're so deep you can't see a way out. Melissa, why did you tell Kevin to bring me the documents at the last minute? She looked away. Because I knew you'd ask questions, and I knew we didn't have good answers. So you tried to rush me? Yes, that was a mistake. I know. If you'd been honest from the start, I would have helped. I might not have liked it, but I would have helped. I know that now. So why weren't you honest? She met my eyes. Because I was ashamed. Kevin and I are supposed to be successful. We're supposed to have it all figured out. Admitting we'd failed, that we'd made terrible decisions, that we needed your help. It felt like admitting we were children again. There's no shame in needing help. Tell that to your son. I couldn't argue with that. My phone buzzed. Email from Castellan's attorney. Subject line, revised purchase agreement. KMB Ventures. I have to go, I said. Melissa nodded. Will you sign? I don't know yet. Please think about Kevin, about what he needs. That's all I've been thinking about. I walked out of the hospital and sat in my car, opened the email, downloaded the attachment. The revised agreement was 63 pages. I started reading. It took me 2 hours to go through every clause, every term, every condition. Castellan had kept his word. 70% at closing, 30% earnout with reasonable performance metrics, 2-year non-compete limited to direct competitors, clawback only for material misrepresentation proven in court with a high burden of proof. It wasn't perfect, but it was fair. Fair enough that Kevin could actually build something after the sale. Fair enough that I could sign the continuity authorization without feeling like I was betraying him. I called Howard. Did you see the revised agreement? I asked. Just finished reading it. I'm impressed. Castellan actually made real concessions. So I should sign? That's your decision. But if you're asking for my professional opinion, yes, this is as good as it's going to get. And the continuity authorization? It's straightforward. Just confirms you approve the transfer under the revised terms. No tricks. No hidden clauses. You're sure? I'm sure. I hung up and stared at the hospital, at the window that might have been Kevin's room. Then I called Castellan. Mr. Brennan, he said, did you receive the revised agreement? I did. And? It's acceptable. Excellent. I'll have the continuity authorization sent to your attorney within the hour. We can close tomorrow morning. One more thing. What? I want a personal guarantee that you won't trigger the clawback provisions without substantial cause. The agreement already limits. I want your personal guarantee, in writing. Castellan was silent for a moment. You don't trust me. No, I don't. Fair enough. I'll include a side letter with my personal guarantee. Anything else? That's all. Then I'll see you tomorrow at the closing. He hung up. I sat there for a while, feeling the weight of what I'd just done. I'd approved the sale of Kevin's company. The thing he'd built, the thing he'd sacrificed for. I'd negotiated better terms, protected him from the worst of Castellan's predatory tactics. But I'd still let him sell. Because that's what he wanted. Because that's what he needed. Because sometimes helping someone means letting them make their own mistakes with slightly better guardrails. My phone rang. Rebecca. Melissa told me you're going to sign. Yes. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This might still blow up. It won't. You made it better. Kevin's going to be okay. I hope so. Dad? Yeah? I'm proud of you. I didn't know what to say to that. Most people would have just walked away, she said. Let Kevin deal with his own mess. But you stayed. You fought for him. Even when he didn't deserve it. He deserved it. No, he didn't. He lied to you. Used you. Treated you like you were stupid. And you still helped him. That's what fathers do. Not all fathers. I thought about my own father, about how he'd walked away when I was 15, about how I'd promised myself I'd never do that to my kids. I'm not all fathers, I said. No, you're not. We were quiet for a moment. Get some sleep, I finally said. You too. She hung up. I drove home, made coffee I didn't drink, sat at the kitchen table where this had all started. The manila envelope was still there, the original documents Kevin had brought, the ones I'd refused to sign. I picked them up and read through them again, found the clause on page 7 that had started everything. By signing below, the undersigned acknowledges and accepts designation as primary continuity officer with final binding authority over all succession and transfer actions. Final binding authority. I'd had it all along, the power to stop everything, to save Kevin from himself, to protect him from his own desperation. And I'd used it, not the way Kevin wanted, not the way Melissa wanted, not even the way Rebecca wanted, but the way I thought was right. And tomorrow I'd find out if I was actually right, or if I'd just made everything worse.